And so we're sitting there and we're all geared up, ready, and the snipers, on scope, and we're watching, and they're like, I think the order was if anybody comes fleeing out that building, detain them, period.
Wow.
And this guy, the window I'm watching, the guy comes piling that thing with guy's AK across his body. And so I jumped out of the vehicle, "Ogo, Kelebiatak," halt, or my dog's gonna bite you in Arabic. And so he turns around and just jets. I'm telling you, I had Olympic sprinter, right? And I was like, "Get him!"
Welcome to Combat Story. I'm Ryan Fugit, and I served Warzone tours as an Army attack helicopter pilot and CIA officer over a 15-year career. I'm fascinated by the experiences of the elite in combat. On this show, I interview some of the best to understand what combat felt like on their front lines. This is Combat Story. On this episode, we hear the combat story of Chris Baity, a Marine canine handler who served tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. Today, he and his wife Amanda run Semper K-9, a nonprofit that trains dogs to help all kinds of people, particularly combat vets. Chris and Amanda's work is special and is often featured in the press. Enjoy. Okay, so we're here with Chris at his house and current facility in Woodbridge, Virginia, very near Quantico, one of the homes of the Marine Corps. And Chris is in the process of moving to a new facility nearby as Semper K-9 continues to grow. And I appreciate you taking the time today, Chris, to talk us through some of the precursors to Semper K-9 and your experiences in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and in the Marine Corps.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
So I thought we could start out, as we were talking about just before we got started, kind of your timeline in the Marine Corps. If you could just walk us through kind of when you started, when you got out, and in between maybe the name and type of dog you had along the way. I think people would be interested to hear that as a starting point.
So as a Marine, you can't enlist to be a dog handler. You have to essentially get selected through military police school. I joined the Marine Corps to be a dog handler. It was the first drive that I really had in life. Joined the Marine Corps, went to as a military police officer, went through MP school, was lucky enough to do well enough in school to apply for and get selected to go in front of a board of military peers to get selected. Had a board, was lucky enough to win, was selected on the board. Got to go to K-9 school in Lackland Air Force Base in 2001. Did 3 months of military working dog course in Lackland. Graduated on Friday the 13th, 2001.
Before 9/11?
Before 9/11. Okay. I went to my first duty station was Okinawa, Japan, on Camp Foster. And my first military working dog was Barry, and he was a dual purpose. Although he was 8 years old when I got him, but he was a dual purpose attack and drug detector dog. I had him for a year, in which I used him to search Marines and sailors coming back from floats in the Southeast Asia. Coming from Australia, the Philippines, Indonesia, doing floats from Korea. And I just would go on out on the ship, the USS Juno, there were a couple others, and I would search bags and search the boat. About a month into my being stationed in Okinawa, Japan, we had September 11th. Actually happened, was one of the first typhoons of the year. And I was actually sleeping out at the kennels on typhoon duty, and got woken up to what sounded like the world was ending, according to the news. And America's under all kinds of attack, and we went on busy duty, even to the point where if you had a drug dog, it was still close enough. The dog could smell something, and you know your dog well enough to know if he's encountered something abnormal that shouldn't be in a vehicle. So I got lucky enough to, I spent the majority of the month after September 11th searching the headquarters building, and all I do was searching cars coming in and out, and they wouldn't put, because I had a drug dog, I wasn't put in the high need areas. I was kind of just more of a visual deterrent, just searching cars in the morning as command and staff showed up. But I did a year in Okinawa, And then I got the opportunity to choose, or got the opportunity to come to headquarters Marine Corps at Henderson Hall next to Arlington Cemetery in the what used to be the Naval Annex. It's not there anymore. Right up where the Air Force Memorial is. Just literally the top of the hill from the Pentagon. But I got sent. I got offered to PCS to Pendleton or to Henderson Hall to create the dog program at headquarters Marine Corps. And unfortunately, when I got there, I didn't know this beforehand, but I got there and there were no dogs there, and nobody knew anything about dogs coming there. So, with a little bit of push, luckily our the provost marshal, Captain Youngma, he knew about the only person that knew that it was on the slots for us to start getting dogs. So I showed up and there was already one dog handler there, and another that had OJT'd and ended up going to Lackland when IPCS got there, and he was in Lackland going to handler's course. I worked the road as a boot or as a senior lance corporal and then a boot corporal for about 10 months, and then we got our first bomb dog in, Nick. The handler who just came out of school, we worked with him as well as there was 3 handlers, myself, Mazio, and Man. We're all the first dog handlers at headquarters Marine Corps, and we got the first dog in was Nick, was a single-purpose bomb dog. They pushed at this time post September 11th. They were pushing dogs out as fast as they come, as fast as they could, especially single-purpose detector dogs. So they were sending out explosive detector dogs as soon as the dog met the certification criteria. So we got Nick in, and we worked with him for a few months and got him certified, and then we got a drug dog in, of course.
Okay.
So we gave the drug dog to Man, and Man started working the road with a drug dog. And then after 10 months or so, this was right before or right after Christmas, I believe, or it would have been July of 2002. And I was actually on leave and got a call from Man and say, "Hey, your dog just showed up." All right, and he's gigantic. He is a humongous Dutch Shepherd, because we didn't know anything about the dogs until they literally show up.
Okay.
You might get lucky and know somebody in Lackland knows the dog's going somewhere, but for the most part, you don't know until you say, pick him up at the airport, and then you see his records and you see what you get there, and then start training with him. So I got back off leave and instantly started working with MWD Marco, and he was a goofy single-purpose, bomb dog, 90-pound Dutch Shepherd, and he was 18 months old. He was only in school for 32 days or something like that. It was a really short period of time. He was just a knack at it. Knew exactly what to do. He's really, really goofy. It was like really no aggression, this dog. To the point where. No, it was just. I think I would steer the procurement program. The guys who are selecting dogs from 341st Training Squadron at Lackland, the actual dog program for the military. At the point, it was bomb dogs were what you needed. Yeah. Whether it was for base garrison jobs. When I got stationed at headquarters Marine Corps, as well as most military working dog handlers at the time, it was garrison. There were minimal deployments. I think Saudi Arabia was about it. That was as far as I knew, and it was always given to Okinawa Marines. 2 Okinawa Marines went for 6 months. Once a year. That was it. It was a privilege to go. Okay. It wasn't something like you kind of had to win it. When I was there, Sergeant McGar and Corporal Lar got to go, because of course I wanted to go too, but I had a drug dog. But so getting a single-purpose dog, we knew there's not much attack-based stuff in it. And all 3 of the first dogs we got were all single-purpose. All of them were hey, train it up, continue working on your protection work, your 6 phases of aggression, keep working on that, and then we'll start to certify you later on when it's not a necessity. Now we really need detector dogs, specifically explosive detector dogs. So that was the focus. Post September 11th, especially the early that first year, being in DC, the security was super, super tight. You couldn't take box trucks in certain places, and we were searching anytime. after, this is fast forward almost a year after September 11th, the end of 2002, early 2003, and we're just now talking about weapons of mass destruction, and we're just now talking about the war on terror is being announced, and so everything's amped up, and we're searching everything. If it's inside the Beltway, and it's anything military related, or the local police can't handle it, or it's above and beyond. Who are they calling? They're calling the MWDs at Headquarters Marine Corps, and then the Army over at Fort Myer.
And MWD is Military Working Dog, right?
Yes. Okay. So there, so we had myself with MWD Marco and Sergeant Mazzio. We were both corporals. He got promoted a month before I did, and then we got promoted, then we were to lead the senior sergeants in the kennels, and our kennel master was Gunnery Sergeant Ellington, and so Mazzio and I pretty much took turns doing different TADs and TDYs. He went up to one of the UN conferences up in New York. Got to stay in like the Ritz-Carlton for a week. His dog had a California king-size bed and full room service. He had and then I got to go do Bush's second inauguration. Man and I got to go do that. Man was my spotter. He had just picked up Nick when Mazzio got out of the Marine Corps, but we. Him and I went and did the presidential inauguration for Bush's second term, and then we did United Nations Secret Service missions with the presidents of VPOTUS and Secretary of States, and I did John Kerry's house in Georgetown, and we searched the Marine barracks every week. We searched Iwo Jima 2 or 3 times a week, especially depending on where we are in parade season.
Yeah.
And did that for, the long haul. And then in 2006, announced that we were going to create the first joint kennels, military working dog kennels with Fort Myer and Henderson Hall. So, we had the Kennel Masters Conference in 2004. And 2003 and 2004, and worked on plans with a program with the Marine Corps and with the Army and with our program manager, the Military Working Dog program manager, and built a really nice, very large kennels. It's still in Fort Myer, did that for pretty much just worked the road as military working dog handlers and trained and did TAD and TDYs and just searched everything from New York to. Anything that was government related or military that we needed to, and then was given the opportunity in at the Kennel Masters Conference in 2006 if I wanted to, 2005 if I wanted to start Marine Corps was branching into more canine stuff, but I had that dog for almost the whole time I was at Henderson Hall. Beginning of 2004 was offered, one of the slots on the first military working dog deployments, mass canine deployments to Iraq.
Okay.
So of course, and I always say this, and I tell people the same story. When I joined the Marine Corps, war was never a thought. I loved animals, and I loved the Marine Corps. And I loved what I was doing. But going to war just it wasn't something, it was considered a pipe dream. You don't get to do cool things like that. We're not at war.
Yep.
I was in boot camp when the USS Cole was bombed, so it was kind of, the reality was kind of there. I knew what was going on in Afghanistan, but the Army was handling most of the dog stuff there. I think we had dogs in the embassy, and that was about it as far as the Marine side of it. And then I know in 2003, or beginning of 2004, my provost marshal, Captain Youngma, approached me first thing in the morning. We're getting in. I just came back from letting dogs out in the kennel. We get to provost marshal's office, and he ambushes me before I can even get in the door. But like, hey, we're sending guys to Iraq, leaving. First thing, probably within 30 to 60 days. Do you want to go? At the time. My wife, we just found out my wife was pregnant with our first daughter, and I would say money was tight, but I was a boot sergeant. I think I'd pinned on sergeant the year before. Was still learning the ropes, so was working the road and doing watch commander stuff and just learning my billet. As a junior sergeant and senior military working dog handler, I suppose. And I didn't. It looked like an opportunity you just can't really turn down. Who it's not like they're drafting people or I wasn't told to go. Given the opportunity. Senior sergeant, I got a really good dog. Who's got a really good nose. I've done everything else that I could probably do within a garrison setting at this point.
So it's time to
might
change,
as well. And I think after a couple of cigarettes and a Red Bull or whatever, I think I went back in there, of course, without even discussing it with my wife. Went back in there and said, "Sign me up. When do I go?" Start preparing, start getting ready to get ready to go. Like I said, I'd only had my dog for a year and some change there, and this is a whole nother world. Everything's garrisoned and pretty much safe. With working with Quantico, working with HMX, and trying to get a good idea, we were able to plan, how best to go. So Gunny Ellington, our kennel master, went with me as the deployment kennel master. And we went to Lejeune and had about 2 weeks of combat training, which was just ridiculous compared to what it is now. You fast forward to 2007, 2008, we're doing pre-deployment courses, and it's geared towards deployment versus not geared towards making sure your dog doesn't miss anything. Because then it was everything from a dog handler, that you're really taught is trust your dog, watch your dog, train your dog. Make sure your dog knows what he's doing, and you protect him, you guide him, and you make sure, he's not missing anything. Make sure nobody's stepping in, getting in his way, or making sure they're not going into something that's not cleared or whatever. That was the mentality. It was, the dog's nose was the spear. Let's push him as far as we can, and everybody kind of just follows along and hopes for the best.
Right.
And that's what my introduction to combat dog stuff was. It was making sure your gun's zeroed and your dog knows as many odors as we have access to teaching him.
Wow. So that was 2004.
And that was 2004.
What did that 2-week session look like, or what did it evolve into in 2007, 2008?
It really was stamina. It was pushing the dogs to. So in the military, when you're training dogs to find an odor, you're using high energy, high drive, especially ball, toy-driven dogs to essentially, their paycheck is their con or is their ball, is their toy. So they're looking, they're smelling, hundreds and thousands of different smells and all the particles that are in the air, in the wind, on the ground, floating off your body and everything around you. And they're trying to find those particles of explosives. Or components of, they're trying to find, that gunpowder, the C4, the RDX, all the things that we commercially think of as explosives, which they don't even really use in Iraq and Afghanistan. Especially later on in the war, they're making their own homemade explosives. But so, everything was geared towards making sure the dog was finding odor, but as well not cheating, not responding to something that was just close but not quite, or, hey, the bomb maker went through here and put his bag down right here before he went over here, and the dog's like, oh, this is close enough. We want the dog to pinpoint source and find the actual source of the odor, whether it's the cache, the IED, the mortar, the pressure plate, the weapons, behind a desk drawer, whatever it is. So, making sure he knew as many odors as we're going to potentially encounter, anything the enemy's using, I know it changed over the years, but we were always anti-coalition forces. Didn't really use the term enemy, bad guy. I mean, obviously, Alibaba, and, all the derogatory names that get tossed out there, but it was just the enemy, anti-coalition forces. So anything they're using against us, that their clothing has explosive materials on it, has gunpowder residue and all that carbon residue, all that stuff on it. So trying the dog, just getting the dog to be able to do anything over as long as we could. If we can get him to search for 8, 10, 12 hours, which is just murder on a dog.
Is it? Okay.
But that and just ignoring, poop and dead animals and trash and, stinky people and, and a bunch of stinky Marines and as well as being indifferent to, a whole different environment. As a garrison dog handler, everything is you and maybe a spotter, where you're by yourself and you're, okay, you're just going to search this room and company gunny is going to follow you behind you and make sure that, you don't miss anything or write down douchebag didn't clean his locker or whatever it is.
What is a spotter?
So a spotter is,
no,
spotter is a second pair of eyes for a dog team. So our focus as a dog handler, just like I was saying, is trust your dog, watch your dog. You train your dog to do what you want him to do, and just make sure he doesn't miss anything, make any mistakes. Looking for what's called change of behavior, or just noticeable difference. You're looking for he's sniffing. As soon as he hits odor, as soon as he smells something that's interesting, he's gonna act different. He's gonna start spinning around, jerking his hair, ears up, tails wagging, tail stiff. Pointers, will point. If he's close enough to odor, if it's saturated or concentrated enough, instant response where your dog's walking, ears pop up and instantly sits. That's a just noticeable difference. Change in behavior. He knows there's something here that he's waiting for his reward.
Okay.
Right? And then you run into the problem. Okay, how do I pay my dog without setting off a bomb? So, being able to, hey, just because you're gonna get the toy this time. Right, doesn't mean I can always throw the toy, at the IED at your feet, or at the desk drawer, which is how we train to do. The dog thinks that he's found this odor, and this odor is somehow related to his toy, and his toy is gonna fly out of the wall or bounce off his head or hit the ground, or that's all he's looking for. So you have to teach the dog to, hey, when you find the odor and when you respond, don't disturb everything around you. Don't bust anything.
Yeah.
So a spotter is also making sure the handlers, because the handler's watching the dog, that, hey, there's a cat over here that nobody's looking at, or there's a dead animal over here, or hey, there's a weird looking rug on the floor that's bunched up and kind of raised a little bit, or hey, there's you completely walk past this door right here. I know your dog was showing interest in this cabinet. And in the process, you turn your back and walk right in front of this door, or, don't trip over this. It could be dark and you can't use, you might not be able to use your MVGs. You're, watching your dog, with your night vision, or just using your normal your true night vision. So, they may be watching the whole room with MVGs. I deployed in 2004. We didn't have MVGs. It was like, no, Special Forces and SEALs got that. We can't afford that. We didn't have M4s. M4s were like, you're not
M16s.
SEAL. What are you? Yeah, we had A1, A2s. It was. But anyways, so a spotter is literally just to make sure you don't screw up. Your job is to make sure the dog doesn't screw up and or do anything dangerous or miss anything, and the spotters make sure you don't do that.
Got it. Okay.
So it's Overwatch pretty much.
Wow.
Mobile Overwatch. But stamina, indifference to the tons of smells and sights and sounds and everything that's going on. I mean, be able to, get your dog to search around gunfire for a high drive, attack dog, a dual purpose dog that's trained to attack aggressive, behavior, but he's also trained to find bombs in the middle of a firefight, and you're trying to clear an LZ so they can get casualties out is, something you have to prepare for. But you really don't know it. And, in 2003, 2004, it was, what's the phrase? Learn as you go, trial and error. That's what it was. But, doing 222 days, of that, in fact, my very first mission was with Adam Cann. He first Marine, military working dog handler to die since the Vietnam War. He took this picture. Him and I actually pinned him, him, Ernest, Huntley, and Cann, and I all pretty much stayed in contact. We did our first year in Japan together, and then Cann stayed an extra year in Japan. Huntley went down to New River. I went to Henderson Hall, and Ernest went to Cherry Point. But we, all that group of dog handlers are all in K-9 school together, and then did a year in Japan together, and then kind of hit the fleet, the stateside fleet as senior dog handlers or a seasoned dog handlers, and Ernest Huntley went the year after I did, but Ernest Huntley and Ernest, Cann, and myself all did our first combat deployments together.
Were you you took this? So this is a photo of Cann inside.
This was Cann took a picture. This was, I believe, in the back of a CH-46, I believe, going out to the Syrian-Jordanian borders.
Okay.
Him and I, I was the regional kennel master for Al Anbar province, the western part of Iraq, and I covered. I was the kennel master for the Treville and Walid, which were the borders, the ports to go in and out from Iraq into Jordan and Iraq into Syria.
This is 2004 then.
This is 2004.
Okay, so that's kind of your first experience in combat. Is
first
that port
experience
security?
as a dog handler, and my first combat find. Cann and I found he had I believe he had Bruno then as well. And I had Marco, and we did our first combat mission together.
Together. What was that like?
So I have no idea. And I remember we get off the plane and we land in Al-Assad, Iraq. And of course, if you've seen the movie Jarhead, in the beginning they get on the plane, they're all like, "Wow, we did the same shit." You see the movie later, and you're like, "Oh my god, we did the same shit." Like it didn't change back then. It's the beginning of the war. Nobody knew what the hell to expect. You get off the plane and they drop the back of the plane. The C, I think we were on a Galaxy or C-130. And it comes down and the heat hits you like this is beginning of April, so it's not even hot yet, but it hits you like you've opened the door to an oven. We're in full battle rattle, minus ammo with our dogs, and we're like, okay, you walk out of the plane, and of course we're just like, what do we do? You're adjusting the light, and you got guys in boots and utes unpacking pallets and and things like that. And we're like, oh, okay, we're safe. We're not like landing in the middle of the desert and shit. But we about a week or so of in processing, figure out who's going where. I think it might have been a little bit more than a week. The Marine Corps hurry a lot.
Yep.
Rushing to get over there. We get there and we nobody's where we need to go. So we were because we were part of OIF-2. OIF-2 had just started the month before, and there was a unit had gone 2 months before us. A dog, same thing. So it was 2 repeat MWD units. Phase 1 was 20 Marines, and Phase 2 was 20 Marines, and I think we got to take 10 Air Force handlers with us as well.
Okay.
So I was part of Phase 2. The kennel master, it was with Phase 1. Was still at Al-Assad, and we show up, and it's there's females. So we're trying to figure out what to do with it. And there's of course an internal argument whether they should be going to bases or whether they should be going to do that. That's what I remember about first getting there was, okay, we got these female dog handlers, and I didn't think anything about it. I'm like, well, they're here, they're deployed. What I don't know. I mean, whatever. Let's put them to work. And it's an internal argument about whether they should go anywhere, whether they should be staying on it, staying in a fob mentality and searching whatever, and they can't go on missions type. So I knew I was going. I knew when they were going to send me out on missions, but especially with a gigantic black dog, there was no reason. You're a visual deterrent walking in the street everywhere, so nobody wants to screw around with this 90-pound Dutch Shepherd that's got a vicious bark.
Yeah.
We get so Cann and I packed up. It was Cannon, and myself jumped on Cannon came later. It was Cann, Sergeant Cann, and myself jumped on I believe a CH-46 and took a helicopter ride an hour and a half to as far west of in Iraq as you can go. And stopped in Korean Village of all names. Still don't really know the truth of why they named it that. The story goes that we got there. There were only about 30 or so Marines there. We were attached to Fox 27. Second Marines, 7th Battalion, 2nd Marines, 2nd Battalion.
Okay.
Fox Company, and they had done the trip from Fallujah all the way west, so they had run into all kinds of shit, and they'd been there a couple months before we got there. So we get there, and they're like, okay, you're attached to this combat unit that's has lost guys already. It's like crap. They're like, okay, then we want you to go out here to the border and make sure, the enemy doesn't sneak anything through the borders. So I sent Cann out to the Syrian border, and I took the Jordanian border. He had more of an aggression point, and I had an influx of just car. I was just going to be searching trucks all the time. So we slept pretty much in the on the ground and in the holes for about 2 months out there at the border, searching all the surrounding little towns and the ports, and literally I'm assuming we had some kind of contract with some shipping companies come out of Jordan, so I'm searching just everything that's for the government or for the military and just civilian stuff.
Just
that's
all
coming
day.
In.
That's the word.
Well, no, it usually comes in influxes, but sometimes it might be 80 trucks, sometimes it might be just 12, and it could be 4, 5, 6 times a day. It might not be at all.
Okay.
But pretty much every day you're searching, 20 plus, tractor trailers, as well as, doing, small night ops, we're getting pop shots out all day long. It's this tiny little, probably half of a football field little fob at the border right next to, a town that does not like us,
right.
and next to a country that is, potentially aiding all the bad guys in the country. Mm-hmm. So, it's... to me, it was a good learning curve.
Yeah.
Because I got the opportunity to prepare for later on missions. By just pushing my dog's stamina, being able to train. Wasn't finding anything, but we were able to talk to EOD and get some of the explosives that they had seized and they had found and used, and got tons of opportunity to search and do things without a real worry. It was a small unit. Some of my funniest stories are hanging out with these grunts. I tell you what, they rag on each other worse than they do Pogues. I don't care what. As much as the shit as they give non-grunts, man, they give each other crap all day long.
Were you considered a non-grunt?
Yeah, we're Pogues.
Oh, wow. Okay.
An interesting story is, I'd been with them for probably 3 or 4 months now. They didn't. Their platoon commander was a Harvard graduate.
Wow.
But this was his first mission. He was a butter bar. He's a boot second lieutenant himself. It had been in the Marine Corps, like a year and a half or something like that. And his platoon sergeant is a crusty staff sergeant from that I believe served in Desert Storm.
Mm-hmm.
Crusty staff sergeant. He's early 40s maybe. I'm just surprised. Why the hell are you still a staff sergeant? Why are you still in the Marine Corps? I'm just confused. I have a feeling that at some point in time he might have gotten in trouble. He's just kind of stuck as staff sergeant. But he loved the unit to death. And this company. Or I was attached to one of the platoons because it was one of the platoons is at one fob at one border, and the other platoon's another border, and the other companies or the rest of the companies back. They do have two other platoons, and the support platoon is back at Korean Village, and we're out there at, just trying to pass the time pretty much.
Yeah.
You had no power. I mean, we had a generator, but it was limited. We had a Iridium, satellite phone that we got to kind of share.
This is like the beginning of it all,
Yeah, you got
right?
to share. We didn't have beds. It was rolled out. We started buying those little foam mattresses.
Yep.
We started buying those, and after a while, you're like, dude, I need to buy like 3 of these things. So we started stacking them up on the floor. And then I remember probably about 2 months being out there, we actually got cots in, and we couldn't figure out how they were brand new. You couldn't get them together.
Yeah,
they were so
open,
tight because they were brand spanking new, like straight off the assembly line.
Yeah.
So like you had to fashion them and lay on it for a couple of months before you could stretch it out to actually get it to work.
Let me ask you this, because I think a lot of people, vets out there, are familiar with that feeling of living in that austere environment. If you were in the war at that time, what was it like for your dog at that time?
So, I mean, what I remember, that was goofy about my dog was later on, but I just remember people loved him. It was just training all day long,
mm-hmm.
and when we had leisure time, because we had of course, you got a couple of barracks, and you got, it's just like just gutted buildings, concrete. Shell of a building we built the doors and we built the rooms and all that stuff. But I'm sleeping in a squad bay with I'm a senior sergeant. I was had been a sergeant for 2 years at this point, and or a year and a half, and I'm sleeping with PFCs and lance corporals, and we're all just dirty and sticky. We didn't have showers, nothing. We're at barracks haircuts all day long, and and I showed up knowing all this stuff, so I prepared. And being a dog handler, you get a little leisure as far as bringing an extra bag. Okay. So it's not like you're limited to your Alice pack. We didn't even have Molly gear back then.
Right.
You get an Alice pack and you get your sea bag. And dog handlers were allowed an additional bag, sea bag, which is what I filled, and then a kennel. So we were allowed a little additional little room. So I got to bring smaller things like hair clippers. So I had the only one of the only pairs of hair clippers. I'm cutting everybody's hair, which I had goofed around in the barracks haircuts. Go through the years. I gotten pretty good at doing a medium. I could do a high and tie. I could do a medium. But I get you a nice little fade going. And so I would just cutting each other's hair. Showers with bottles of water, and we. Fashioned up the latrines, out of water bottles taped together, and and porta-johns. We had porta-johns. So probably the worst funny story I have about my about the time out there was a guy taking a in a shitter at the middle of the night, and of course they lock him in and they have to knock it over. And I remember him. I'm not gonna say his name, but and I remember because this was at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Because most of my deployments I stuck to night shift. Sun up to sundown. That was I knew that was. It's always been ingrained to the Marine Corps. Those are the most dangerous times, for any kind of combat situation. Is, deep in the night, early first thing in the morning, right after it gets dark, right before it gets dark. Those twilight and dusk times, or, So I kind of stuck to it. There's no point in being. You can't do anything with a dog at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 140 degrees outside. So, it's 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And, I'm waiting around to use the phone or waiting around to use the one computer we have with the 6 hours of NIPRNet that we're allowed to use, at that time. I'm waiting around and I hear the commotion, and I go outside and then I see this porta-john roll over on his side, and I see him pop out of it, and he's got toilet paper, and it's great, and he's just like, oh, and I feel bad for him because we have one shower, and it's the tank on the roof, that gets filled, once a week type stuff, and limited. Everybody takes a shower every couple of days or once or twice a week if you depending. I don't remember exactly what the schedule was. I know it was like one squad this day or these 2 days, and then so on and so forth. And we kind of rotated around, just took a shower whenever. But I remember him being in the shower, and you could smell him. You could smell it in the shower for forever. We finally got a shower going, and it's like, I think it was, but grunts. But going back to the roundabout for this story is this crusty staff sergeant. This is where up until that point, I felt like I was embedded. These guys, I was with them. This was my, I was with them. I was the only sergeant in the platoon. It was all corporals, lance corporals, and boots, and and then the staff sergeant and the staff sergeant and the second lieutenant. But. Second lieutenant, I don't think got woken up. If he did, he just talked to the staff sergeant, and so, he's screaming at everybody wake up, get over here and get over into the pit, because we had, because we'd fill our time, and we had boxing matches and tap out, and we did working out, and did runs and all kinds of stuff. I felt like it was, I was embedded with these guys, and loved my dog, loved playing with. They loved to try to. They'd put the suit on him, and I'd let him catch the dog, and we'd do, I'd teach him everything I could about the dog and how to utilize me, and where he fits, and where we fit in the picture and stuff like that. But it all when that happened, and he called all hands on deck, and meet in the pit, and I'm like, okay, so I remember smoking a cigarette, and everybody's smushing, and I'm standing over, and like, I know. I was like, this is probably not gonna go over well for anybody, right? And I was like, and I remember, so everybody gets over there, and he's, okay, let's count off, boot camp style, and he's making sure everybody's there, right? And I finish my cigarette, and I start walking, and he's like, Baity, let me handle my Marines real fast. I was like, you got a staff sergeant? And I went off. I was like, I'm going to go get on a computer then.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I don't think they got smoked or anything. But, it was like, I mean, hey, I'm Marines. Just, I got this.
So you were
like,
family, but just not
yeah, I
quite
was family,
that
but
close.
hey, it was, I think it was a 0311 type thing. It was, hey, you're not quite a grunt. We love you and all, but I'm about to chew some ass, and you don't need to see this.
Okay.
So that was my first introduction to the real Fleet Marine Corps, the real grunt style, that combat mentality of, these guys will sweat and bleed and spring for you. When it really comes to their family, and you're helping them out.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't have any complaints with it. I don't remember. I remember the guy in the Porta-John. I remember his last name, but I don't remember. I don't remember a lot of the names. I'm terrible with names.
But you also cycled through these different units, right?
Yeah, I went through a lot. So that company had been there. Left probably about 4 months into my deployment. I think we were out there at the FOB. I was with them for maybe 2 months out there with that platoon, and then I got pulled back because we had they sent me cannon. They sent me another a Marine dog handler that had gotten up there, and they sent me 2 Air Force handlers as well.
Okay.
So I put the 2 Air Force handlers at I got 2 Marines over here and 2 Air Force guys at this base. Because at the time I wasn't a regional kennel master. It was just a dog handler. Just go out there and I get the emails and get the phone calls once a week. What's the update status and all that stuff. And sit reps and all that stuff. And it's, hey, I'm sending you another Marine. I'm sending you 2 more Air Force dog handlers. You're going to take over regional kennel master for that AO, and you're going to handle everything. I think it was about 250 square miles.
Wow.
It was a. I think it's about a 30-minute drive or so going Humvees 50 miles an hour, 55 miles an hour. It's everything from and the town was Ar-Rutbah.
Okay.
Ar-Rutbah, Iraq is like the last town before you hit you're leaving Iraq.
Okay.
So we had the two border patrols, 2 border checkpoints, and then Ar-Rutbah, and I was by myself, attached to the whole company. Then I was attached to the support platoon, and started pushing hardcore missions in Ar-Rutbah. We had the mayor of the town, got killed. They elected a new one. His whole entire family got murdered. Corruption is just terrible. We're getting, we're having to, completely separate from the local police because you can't trust any of these guys. We're hearing stories coming off the hard wire that, they're turning their weapons on, us. We're walking down the street and they're, ambushing us and stuff like that. So, 2004, if you weren't American, we didn't trust you. And our interpreters were embedded with us, just the same thing, but and they're all named Muhammad. We all, they're all called Mo, pretty much. And that was my first work with an interpreter. That's pretty much all I did was I went and tried to search. We went on missions, and I was searching routes in and out. And
so let's pause here. When you say you're on missions, in this case, is this you're in like not a grid, but you're inside city confines? You're going like street to street.
No, not in
routes,
this city. No,
patrolling?
not big. No, because we had I believe we had 2 gunships there that were our close or
QRF.
QRF. And then we had a small like RR unit. It was, September 11th broke up their stop loss and pulling back all the RR Marines and so we had we had mortarmen and we had LAV drivers and we had a lot of support stuff, but we didn't have doors on Humvees. This unit had been through all kinds of shit. They had lost guys, and half of them had Purple Hearts by this point. And everybody had their ARCOMs. So of course everybody had their cars, their combat action ribbons, and I show up and I'm like, yo, I rate this, and like, yeah, next time we have a big unit, we'll submit you. I'm like, whatever, I don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I'm just trying to make it through the day. But missions pretty much entailed, we did stay in the cities. A lot of times it was just for, hey, we show up butt crack early. I was part of, one of my favorite things to do, and, I always try to do it more than they ever let me. But Trojan horse missions, going out there and kind of, put on a man dress, and we had a vehicle. I got attached to snipers a couple of times where we'd go out there and spend a couple of days, spend a week out there in the city. Where there's units in and out almost every day. There's a patrol through the city. There's talks with the interpreter.
Yeah.
I got to pretty much live in a on the roof of whatever building, and then in and out of a van.
Is this with your dog?
This is with my dog and with snipers.
Wow.
It's a Trojan horse mission. So you had to grow out the beards and and wear dirty man dresses and
So what was the dog's role in that mission?
So we didn't really leave unless we actually went to support. Or hey, I gotta run over here, do this, take off y'all. Essentially, we're just quick support. They didn't need me all the time,
city.
and I feel bad. I mean, being a boot, the first command meeting I ever had, I asked for an AC because it was like 150. I was like, look, my dog is just not. I can suck it up.
Yeah.
Right, I can make it work. Right. But my dog is dying here, and they're like, trust me, they're on route. They got to drive all the way from Baghdad. It takes a while to get here. I was like, oh, just so you guys know, I mean, don't expect my dog to survive for too long. Doing 12, 18 hours and 120 degrees. Searching all this, come back and get 6 hours off. He's just, he'll work, but how efficiently? I don't know. He's probably missing all kinds of stuff. But I just don't know. There's nothing I can really do short of giving him that break, and just you gotta wait. I just got here. I can only do so much from Virginia and North Carolina. It's just not hot enough. Mm-hmm. Trojan horse missions. My first close call was on that Trojan horse mission, and we set up the night before with and I'm sitting in a van. We got this old bongo van, and the snipers drilled out. And he's no shit laying in his own pee, just like the movies depict, right? And can't leave this van on a street corner because we parked it there the night before, and we gotta live in this sucker for like 8 hours. And then, we man dressed up, and we're just kind of just hanging out, acting like Joe Schmoes or whatever, hiding out in this van.
Dogs sitting in the van.
Yep, dogs in the van. We backed it up. We had it backed up against against a building that we had control over, that a courtyard, so I could take him in there, and we would sleep in there. But somebody always had to be on scope.
Right.
So I got to sit on scope a couple of times. Nothing major to see. So one of my first Trojan horse missions, at least I believe it was one of my first Trojan horse missions, we, full man dress, and, we're out there, and we, I don't remember the timeline too much, but we were, before the sun comes up, we were gonna sack this building, so we plugged out the afternoon before and parked the vehicle, and and kind of just hung out until late in the night, and then we went quiet time and tried to just observe all night long, and we knew we could see people going in and out, and you hear sounds. I couldn't speak in Arabic at the time, and we knew, we're on, we're on radio, we're on comms and stuff, and you're like, hey, we're gonna come in, and of course we knew this beforehand, but they know when we're coming, and so that's the whole point of these missions, so we could, we set up beforehand, and when they get the signal, the Marines are on their way in, because it's a couple minutes just to get through the gates of the town, get into the town, and they know, so we've been chasing after some ID makers. But I couldn't find them. I couldn't find out where they were playing. We weren't able to catch them. No matter how much we planned on the routes and searched around and stuff like that, we were still running over they were still running over their shit. Mm-hmm. We pretty much using intel had finally narrowed it down to we kind of knew where they were basing out of. So we set this Trojan horse mission up and posted me, and my main objective was to search, but I was there just quick. If they run into problems, then I could jump in. And at this point, I had a single purpose dog that would kind of aggress. He would chase down somebody. I don't necessarily know, he wasn't going to maul anybody. He'd scare the crap out of it, but it was a game to him. He just loved playing and loved chasing and searching, but he wasn't going to maul anyone. Mm-hmm. He loved detection. He loved his ball. He loved chasing. He loved all that playful stuff, but he wasn't going to eat anyone.
Right.
And so we're plugged. So I'm sitting in the van, and you can hear the whistles and the the sounds going off that the Marines are coming in, letting everybody know. And so we're sitting there and we're all geared up, ready, and the snipers, on scope, and we're watching, and they're like, I think the order was if anybody comes fleeing out that building, detain them. Period.
Wow.
So my very first chance to really get in it, and we're standing there. You hear stuff going off in the building, and they're flipping out and running out. And this guy, the window I'm watching, the guy comes piling that thing with guy's AK across his body. And so I jumped out of the vehicle, "Ogov Kelebiatak," halt, or my dog's gonna bite you in Arabic. It's the only Arabic we learn, coming in. "Ogov Kelebiatak," my dog will eat your face, whatever we need. And so he turns around and just jets. I'm talking about an Olympic sprinter, right? And I was like, "Get him!" Right? And of course it's dark, and it's right before the sun comes up, so the shadows are everywhere. And he runs through a shadow, and my dog runs through a shadow. I'm like, when it comes to sending your dog, if you can't see it, you gotta call your dog off, right? So I'm like, out, heel, nothing, right? And I'm like, shit. So I'm running down this aisle because he chased him. And this guy had he sprinted, so he had probably a good 50 to 75 yards, gone. My dog's closing that distance, and he runs in that shadow, and then my dog runs in that shadow. And I'm like, out, heel. Nothing. I was like, so I'm running, Marco, heel.
Is anyone coming with you at this point?
Well, I got a spotter that's trying to catch up. Of course, I'm sprinting, so and he catches up to me, but and it was, actually, I don't even know if there was a spotter coming because I'm, the unit's piling into the building. They're ransacking the building. I'm chasing some dude down a hallway or down an alley behind the building, and I'm like, out, heel. Right, he's not coming back. Right, so I run through the shadow, and I'm like, does anybody see my dog? Right, yeah, he's over here sitting. And I run over there, and no shit, he's just sitting in the middle of the tree. Right, and sees me, and he's like, barking. And the guy ran down the aisle and just disappeared. So I didn't get it. And of course, the staff sergeant's like, why didn't you shoot him? I was like, I sent my dog after him. I thought that's the cool thing. I want to go out of the story. I shot a guy. Yeah, what do you do with your dog? So,
So it did what you told it to do.
He did exactly what I told him to. Yeah,
and it stopped when you told it to.
And thinking about it too is, we trained, out in guard, which you tell the dog, you call him off the aggression, right, and you make him sit, in guard. But I was telling him to heel. We'd never trained for it. I'm telling, no, come back, because I can't see him. So I'm heel is come back to me, back to me, and he didn't do it. He sat in the street, in the lights, literally the Marine that I talked to, and he's like, oh, he's over sitting, and like, what? Where'd he go? And I'm giving him, trying to fill in, and they're like, I don't know, dude. We heard you screaming, and we looked over, the dog sitting in the thing and barking. Like, we didn't see a dude or anything. I was like, no, you told me to. So I should have just shot his ass, But he did what he was supposed to do. But the Olympic sprinter, boy, I tell you what, he was gone.
That's a fantastic story.
But that was my first.
Was kind of the first
that was
one,
my
right?
first. I had I remember having some oh shit, my dog's about to find something. Nah.
Yeah.
My first find, but it was just flaters. It wasn't. It was just discarded crap that Cann and I I was coming from one direction downwind, and he was coming from another direction, but it was. A couple of pallets of signal flares or whatever that got left over because we were searching old bunkers, that were in the middle of the desert, whatever Saddam's old shit.
Yeah. We
were just going through and searching. Hey, we never searched this stuff before. It's listed on the map as an area of opportunity or something like that, and we're just trying to see if we got left behind or see if there's something buried somewhere, or maybe we can find something or whatever, and and that was a BS find. It's hey, I found something.
What about your first real find? What was it?
So,
what year was it?
That first deployment. That was it. I didn't find any bombs that year. Every time, I got, I equate that whole deployment, all 222 days, and I think I did about 80 missions in that time, and that whole thing was I was always just missed it. I literally, we'd be on a convoy and we're going to sack both sides of the city. I get out of my vehicle, I start searching this building. The vehicle, the convoy stretches around and drop the other half off, and they run over an ID around the corner. And I said, wow. Dang it, or, it's, I got picked up from a mission. The guys had get blown up like an hour before. It's like, I was always. We Cann and I probably when we got pulled back to because this was in Ar-Rutbah, and I don't remember what happened first, but probably the first oh shit moment I really ever had, like, oh fuck, I'm gonna die. Oh shit, this is like shit. Like you don't even have time to think. And we're doing one. It was in between one of the mayor's family. One of the mayors getting killed. I think we went through 3 or 4 mayors. I think 2 of them got killed. One of them got kidnapped and resigned, but town couldn't keep enough city official to save his life. But hence why we were there. But when we first got there, everybody hated us. They were throwing rocks at us, kids, or doing all kinds of stuff because they know we're not going to really do anything to them. Although nothing better than seeing a corpsman pull down the pants of a little kid and whoop his tail in the middle of the street corner. They point to his parents and be like, "You all are next." If he doesn't stop, the kid's only like 4 years old or whatever. But a corpsman pulling his pants down, wearing that tail out, and he's like pointing to parents, be like, "You're next." All right, that kid, pants in his ankles. But yeah, I got a bunch of little stories. But we're in a mission and we're doing trying to do intel operations or whatever it is, and Cann and I are across the street from each other. I'm on one end and I'm outside. I'm out in front of the building they're in, and Cann's just across the street. We're sitting there, and we do pop shots every once in a while. And we're in between. We're right next to the mosque in the town, and so. The music starts popping off, right? This is like midday, so it's like 12 o'clock. The sun's high in the air and it's bright. We're like clinging to the buildings with a little bit of shade that you can get. And, all I remember hearing was, the music starting, and then you hear a pop. Right, and I start looking around, and Cann's dog Bruno starts going off. Right, and and this all happens in like a split second. You look, and there's an RPG just flying right at our building, and probably within half the distance, it just went haywire, and then crashed into the mosque and like sprinkled stuff all down on top of us. But it hit their own damn building, but. That was the whole, like, oh shit, okay, I probably need to be a little bit smarter. I'm just standing out in front of the building with my dog, I'm being a visual deterrent. That's what we're taught to do, And, and you look back later on in my other deployments, it's like cover concealment. You really need to take, advantage of it. That first deployment, I'm badass.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Boot sergeant, I have my badass, mean 90-pound freaking man-eater dog that just barks and everybody hates, and he's dropping black hair, and all the people trying to sweep up behind me because I'm ruining their house, and slobbering all over the place, and he's really, really fast. He also walks on his back legs. He like bounces, so he's like half kangaroo. So very intimidating dog. So of course I'm utilizing it. The best of my abilities. Yeah. I'm thinking nobody's going to mess with us, and that was the point where I was like, yeah. So I remember you fast forward maybe another month, and I'm doing the same thing. This time, I'm behind a Jersey barrier with my pistol out the whole time. Yeah.
And the dog's out front.
Yeah, no, and I've got the dog in the same thing, but this time I've got some coverage in front of me, and I have my weapon out. It's a whole, it's a different mentality just because, because I wouldn't have had time to react. Yeah. I remember being like, "Oh shit!" and then it took off in another direction.
I remember just watching an RPG once and being so surprised you could see it so.
Yeah, because it doesn't really shoot. It's like spinning, and then all of a sudden it's just like, and then when it hits the mosque and sprinkles everything, and we're like,
surreal.
Okay, so let me rethink my strategy here. Yeah, exactly. So
given the bond that you guys kind of create with the dog, was there ever a time where you had to yourself remain in kind of a covered position but send the dog out into more harm than you would allow yourself to go out?
Yeah, so when you have a military working dog, especially early on in the war, before we branched out into combat operations, combat training with dogs and preparing the dogs from puppies and preparing them from combat situations, that non-garrison mentality. You never were more than 6 feet from your dog. You would get along. I had a long leash, a 20 or 30 foot leash that you would use and your dog knows to bracket, go in and out of scent cones and search areas and go around doors if you need to. Safety first. You never really want to never go in front of your dog. So you always want your dog to kind of be in front of you and let him do his job and let him use his ears, let him use his nose, let him use his instincts. Let him do what you've trained him. And base everything kind of off that. Roll with the punches if you need to. Yeah, and there were times where, especially as, later on deployments, later on in this one too, you kind of let, you had to trust it. It's a tool. It's a piece of gear. I hate to say it, but it's a piece of gear. You have to. We had a couple of close calls where I thought he got shot. But he never did. We hit walls, and we were always just on the other side of a wall in time, or just got out of that truck, or hadn't even made it there yet. I go to search a courtyard, and when you can't see on the other side, you kind of search seams, make sure it's not booby trapped, which it almost never is. If it is, it's not booby trapped until you get inside and you step on the pressure plate and the whole building falls in on you. So it's that mentality of, okay, I'm gonna go in here and you're probably gonna die, but it's gonna save the whole platoon. Or the fire team. That's kind of the mentality you go into. Well, you're gonna go in here and we don't know if there might not be bad guys in the room. And you've got. You kind of have to argue with, I've had to tell, the first time I ever told an officer no, was one of those times where, he's like, hey, I want you to go do this. I'm like, no. Yeah. What do you mean no? I was like, well, that's not my job. If you want me to verify that it's a bomb, then that's against my SOP. I am not allowed to do that. It's EOD's job. If I do that and I get killed, right, you're going to get in trouble. Right, you can't do that. I was like, and it's no offense to you, but that's a waste.
A pretty precious resource, I think.
Exactly, and I never really. And you had to argue, and I tell lieutenants first, you're like, okay, we're going to do this. Now we need to protect you. And I'm like, no. I was like, in this situation, my dog can be expendable.
Wow.
My dog can.
Was there a moment where you flipped, or maybe you were always like this, but the training and everything, and where you got to the point where you said, all right, we're close, but at the end of the day, I got to save these other Marines, so I got to put you the dog.
Almost every building you go in, especially if you're scouting, if you're lead, you kind of go in everywhere. You go into it knowing that hey, everybody behind me is relying on me. Yeah. I literally have to make sure my dog is on point, and no handler sends their dog into a situation where they know, like, okay, I don't know if you're coming back, right? Later on in the deployment, all the time. Later on in when I get a different dog, get an off-leash bomb dog, a specialized search dog. Every mission is that. Hey, your job is to go out there and die so nobody else does. It's just we want you to find it before it kills anybody or kills you, but
and it's up
they're
ahead
smart.
Of you
They're smart. They know. We have dogs, we have handlers get killed. Their dogs stepped on the plate and they knew, hey, about 8 feet behind the dog is behind the plate, put the bomb. Right? It blows
they were starting to learn.
Yeah, they figured it out. Just like with with the MRAPs and the prowlers and predators and things that we set up to try to detonate. They'll just make the daisy chain longer. It's going to detonate here and it's got a 2-second delay. And it'll blow up right underneath the Humvee. Things like that. So they're 2004, 2008, totally different mentalities.
Wow.
They're smart, and then they start to run out of resources. We start to figure out the game. We're able to train specifically to their tactics, and their tactics changed.
Right.
From
as
deployment
you change,
to deployment.
I'm sure they change.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. It's back and forth, just like a sporting event or a football game.
Wow.
You change your offense and defense based off what the other team is doing. So it's a lot of that. I wouldn't ever say I sent my dog into a situation. I mean, when I sent him after that guy, that was that was, oh shit, I'm right. Because anytime you send, you're always taught, it's a gun. If you pull that trigger and you send your dog after somebody, you could pull that bullet back. Maybe. You hope you can. If you train right, good situation, good timing, your command is crisp, your dog's listening, all that things, they have to be perfect. You're right. So, but they tell you, but when that's garrison stuff. If you're sending your dog after somebody, it's probably a drunk ass Marine being stupid.
Yep.
He's fighting fucking whatever.
Yeah.
Here it's like I'm probably not wrong. But we've got. When I stepped off the boat, we had $40,000 bounties on our heads.
Right.
It was like $40,000 for us. I think it was 20 for you and 20 for the dog, or 40 for you, 40 for the dog. Come back with a tattoo, or come back with the handler's leash. Things like that was. Those were war relics, if you will, for anti-coalition forces. It was So they're trying, they're changing tactics. We're doing what we need to. The difference between the use, the grunts, the way they're using, changed a lot. In 2004, it was how can we use you? What do you need to do? Where do we need to put? I fast forward to 2008. I've got to talk my way into missions. Like, no, I can do this. And they're like, nope, we don't even have to worry about that because we do this now instead. We alleviate that fear, that worry of putting you in that situation by doing this tactic instead. It's like, well, shit, I don't even do anything. And I went from 2004 and then 2007 deployment. I got to be that spear, and you go to 2008 and 2011, it's like, you get told what to do, and nobody's supposed to do. It's like, everybody's, because we've advanced too far, the tactics, the commanders, the officers making all these decisions, making the plans and stuff are smarter. They're able to figure it out. They know how to work with the enemies. These graduates, West Point, and I was attached to the Army. We had West Point graduates, and we had military academy graduates that. They literally have a degree in military tactics and military studies, so they literally know. Oh yeah, a hammer and anvil is an easy tactic, but just do a flank.
This is how we use our resources, and these are the resources we need.
I mean, I got to do some route clearance, but that that tactic was it just wasn't feasible. The stamina. You're talking about searching miles upon miles just to get from point A. LZ to mission. It's just not feasible to waste your resource on searching the side of the road. So it came more of a visual tactic of knowing where to drive and how to drive and knowing your route, knowing what bomb makers are doing what in your area, and the bomb maker you're looking for. So we did a lot of route clearance, but it was more, secondary searches. Somebody ran over IED, right, and they're trying to. I jump out of the vehicle and run over here and just search everything around and say, okay, is there something secondary? Can I find command det line? Which generally you can. They're touching the explosive and then touching the wire. They're leaving odors all over the place. Maybe they buried something nearby, or maybe they literally set this up out of a cache that's just over in this town, this little village that's right over here. So a lot more support based early on, at least as far as my experience, and with the MWDs early on. We did road stuff, but it's a waste. Your best bet was to stay in the middle of the road, have upper armor. We were finally able to get doors on the vehicles again and stuff like that. I mean, my very first mission, I'm smoking out the window, and I'm worried people are going to get mad at me because I'm smoking in the Humvee. They're like, dude, we don't care. It's like, if we don't get blown up today, then I'm happy.
That's the goal.
Exactly. Right. It's like, we get to keep our one door. We finally got a door on our driver here. If we can keep that door for the rest of the mission, then, I'll be happy. So,
right.
The whole. My biggest concern is like I'm gonna flick an ember and the ember's gonna come out and get in my eye. I'm gonna go blind. And I'm gonna get sent home, be an idiot. That was my biggest concern early on. And you fast forward, a couple of years or even just a couple months later, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna go in this building, and if there's a rug, or I gotta make sure that I'm out of a blast zone. Past the lethal resistance. If my dog does detonate it. Or hey, making sure my spotter. Hey, I'm going around this corner right here. Don't follow me until I call you. I was like, if shit pops off, just wait. I was like, if something happens or you hear something, just wait. Don't come charging into the room. Because worst case situation, I can probably protect my dog. I can do what I need to. I can, let me be. Last thing I want to do is try to protect my dog, shoot a bad guy, and then have you run in the room. Because
things are chaotic.
It's just a nightmare. There was no. You didn't have tactics that you had those mount tactics that we had later on. So we did a lot. We did do route clearance, but they use the same holes, so we'd search those. You fast forward 2007, 2008. I did one of my deployments I did night missions for about 4 or 5 straight months, and that's all I did was searching ID holes. Searching roads that were iridium and silver line and gold vein and all the little towns in and out of Baghdad, or little town roads in and out of Baghdad. I'm searching the first 50 kilometers, but I'm literally going from ID hole to the next one, and from town and intersection to checkpoint, and just searching as much as I can. While they try to repair holes and they resupply and things like that. I'm just trying to get as many guys there and back as possible. Luckily I never lost anybody. So, the bonus to that is I never nobody that was ever relied on me. Kenny, was one of my handlers. We on a mission. You search this way and I'll search this way, and he walked in the building and had an HBID, and luckily he lived, got some nasty scars and surgeries and Purple Heart to show for it, but, I made that decision, hey, I'll go this way, you go that way, and luckily, him and his dog both survived, his dog, I think it was the Marine in me, or maybe it was the seasoned sergeant in me that was like, if you want to take the hard shit, I'll give you the hard stuff, and he got some glory out of it, got a Purple Heart out of it too, but I never really looked at it as an opportunity. You weren't looking for that, right? I didn't really care, I wasn't there for I was there for the paychecks, and the the fun, the experience, I don't have to listen to bitching wife, and I don't have to work the road, I don't have to do this goofy stuff. I get to pretty much, train for real all the time. Yeah. It's deployments are nice. They're good as far as you don't have to worry about one thing really. I think probably the killer is thinking about home. And I learned later on. You get a couple more kids and a couple deeper into a marriage, and you got to talk to them every day and all that. So it kills you. Kills what you're doing over there sometimes. So. I should have learned from my first one that try to keep your family separate, but you get way too much downtime. Yeah. So, but when it comes down to it, we did a lot of searching, and then later on, when we started using SSDs, and I got an off leash bomb dog, detect and locate. That is your
and
job.
Did you find just an emplaced explosive?
Yeah, so I had seven total finds. The first one was my first deployment, and the other 6 were spread out between the 2 deployments in Baghdad. Okay. Most of them were weapons caches. I found 1 IED. But lots of caches and lots of stuff hidden in people's houses. Because I was doing a lot of door-to-door, kicking down doors and searching courtyards for explosives and searching houses to informants. And, one of the probably the bigger missions I did, in Operation Pericles was taking back a Bakuba, which was the power. There's the biggest town north of Baghdad, which was what I think one of the units invaded through, taking over Baghdad, and they literally just destroyed everything in the wake, and then didn't step foot. This is 2004 when they, or 2004 or 2003 or whatever, when they were invading. Yeah. Destroyed everything, and blew up the whole town's, power plants and water purification, everything. It just ruined them. And we come back in, and 2004. 4 or 5 years later, and the town's just overridden. It's that's like a strong point. We had kind of forgotten about it, and they had just made that a little home. So we go back in for I think a week or two, a week and a half maybe, and we're just kicking indoors, door to door, and going, trying to get somebody to turn over on his buddy, and especially when you're offering lots of money, you throw out the greenbacks. I forget what movie it is, where it's like, rooms full of cash that we seized. No, that's what it is. You go on a mission, and platoon commander, platoon sergeant, they get a couple $1,000s to pay their way through the mission. Feed my Marines, put on some bed, give them roof over their head. Hey, get out. We're renting your house for the night. Here's $500, $1,000, whatever they're giving them, and you're not gonna have any food when you get back, so go grocery shopping. That was. I don't know if that's normal thing. I'm assuming there's some legalities to it. If it's not, then edit that out. But that was my interpretation of how wars run in a an occupied space like that. That's how it works. So
So going through Bakuba, is that where you found the IED?
Yeah. So. No, this was in Bakuba. We're kicking in doors, and I'm and probably I think this is the very first night, because we did a helo insertion. You assault the city. We search till dawn, and then we sleep till 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then start kicking down doors again. So no, they don't get any peace during the night. No. We're keeping them moving, and I think it was 20 houses in, maybe a couple hours into the mission, we jumped off the helicopter and just started kicking down doors, started, searching shit, and I'm pretty much just, I'm right behind the spear, they're kicking in doors, and I'm searching door seams, they're kicking in doors, and they're going in and just,
repeat,
ransack, we're just going, and there's myself and Kenny, he's on, one street and we're leapfrogging. I hop over his street and go to the next one, and we're doing that, for hours on end. We go into this house, and it's very Chris Kyle, and I almost joke around. This is so close to what happened, but we go in, we're talking to this guy, and he's Sniper. American Sniper. And in the movie, how they're having dinner with this informant, or when he sees his elbow, like. Not nearly that. We're not having dinner with the guy, but we've kicked in and we haven't found anything. We're drawing blanks, door after door after door. We're not getting anything. We get to this guy who's an informant, and so, I think he was either by himself. I don't remember any kids or any wife, any other family member, anybody. And it was just the one guy, and he's there and he's like, "Oh, how you doing, sir?" And he's talking to our interpreter. And I'm searching the courtyard, and he's like, "No, you're," he's watching me the whole time, right? And then the Army staff sergeant starts talking to him, and they're getting a little heated, and I think he's just, I don't know what they're talking about or whatever, and I'm kind of just, so I'm, I was like, "Okay, done searching the courtyard. I'm gonna go inside. I'm gonna take a load off." So I take my Kevlar off, and I prop my rifle up, and I'm sitting there, and they're talking to this guy, and they're getting heated, and I'm like, well, shit, I'm not going to stand in this area without searching at least. So, hey, let's finish searching, and so we start searching around, and my dog walks into a room and walks into a cabinet and sits the cabinet, and there's a soldier was in the room sitting on his the chair, because this is the room where they've got blankets and pillows and stuff just everywhere. There's like this gigantic dresser drawer they got on the wall, and there's blankets and stuff all in it and all around it. And I walk in, "What's up, man?" And he's sitting there, nothing much, just taking the load off while they're out there bitching to this guy or whatever. And my dog walks in the room, he's sniffing the floor, and I'm kind of just looking around. He walks over to the cabinet, right, and it's the click button, bloop, right? So he click, and it opens up, and he books it, and there's blankets, up top, and he hops up into it, and and the blankets come piling off, right, and there's a freaking sniper rifle back there, right, and he sits, and I was like, "You see this?" And the guy's like, he's like, "Well, don't say anything," right? So he walks out.
I know the exact part of the movie you're talking about.
Yeah, so he walks out, and I'm standing there, and I'm like, my dog's like, and he jumps up and sniffs it again. He's sitting there like, he's jumping, and I'm like, I was like, okay, I want to reward him, but I was like, let me wait, right? So he goes, and I don't remember if he's a specialist or whatever, and he wasn't my spotter. He just was taking a load off in the room, and he walks out there, and he's like, "Staff Sergeant, let me show you something." Right, and he's like, "Sit down," and he grabs that guy and he pushes him in the seat, right, and he's like, "Watch him." And he walks over, he's like, "What?" Right, he said, "Look what the dog just found." And this staff sergeant clips his Kevlar, and he pulls his gloves out, and there's the hard knuckle gloves, and I don't want to tell the rest of the story, but essentially he's like, went out there and grabbed the guy by the shoulder and grabbed him by his collar and pulls him in, and he goes, and he starts screaming at him, and I won't tell the rest of the story, but
that's a huge find.
Yeah, and when I saw it in the movie, I was just like, I got an AAR on that. I was like, I want to see where they stole that. I'm sure it wasn't the first story to happen to, but I remember that was probably one of my more like, just trust your dog, let your dog do his job, and I was just like, well, I ain't doing anything else.
That's pretty cool.
When I should have just, and I don't remember. I probably was drinking water. I probably had, I remember taking my Kevlar and taking, my gear, kind of. I didn't drop gear, but I know I'd taken my Kevlar and set my, prop my rifle up and was kind of just waiting. For, hey, well, I'm waiting for them to figure out where we're going next and what we're doing next. And douchebag was pulling some funny stuff. But needless to say, after that, those rooms were always a room that I always made sure, because that was the one they would pile the wives and the daughter, and they're like, "Oh no,
nothing
I'm like,
in here,
get the hell out."
Yeah.
And I've had officers, I had chaplains, I've had the the human guys tell me, oh no, we'll let them. I was like, nope. And I'll tell them that story, and they're like, get out, right? Dog handed to search this room. That's because that's like almost the first room I would go to.
Yeah.
My oldest son coming in. What's up, buddy? But we're, you're always taught kind of start from the top and work your way down, and and I was one protocol I'm breaking every time. That's the first room I get to. The room that they want to put all the wives and stuff in. That's the room I want to search, right?
Well, that's pretty cool.
I never found anything in one of those rooms again, and actually I don't think I think I found a pistol, in one room, like an old like 45 in one room. That was one of my other finds, but that one was just it was the guy was allowed to have that gun. But yeah, just my dog just happened to find that too. He's like, oh no, he's like, that's my pistol. Anyways, but after that it was like a breaking protocol. I'm not going to the top and working with it. First way, where's the blanket room?
Right.
Where's their sleeping room? Their hot day room. And that's where I'd go search first. I've got that's one of my fun ones that I like to tell.
I'd say I could probably listen to this for about 5 hours, but being respectful of your time.
Oh, no worries.
We can kind of ramp down here, and I definitely want you to be able to talk about Semper K-9. Okay. So just kind of what you guys are doing now and the future for this great organization.
In my last deployment, so I got back from Iraq in 2000, and for my second deployment to Iraq in the end of 2007, and I had my ES was September of 2008. I get back, like beginning in November. Christmas Day, I get orders going right back again in March. And I was like, I told him, I was like, look, I don't even have enough time. I was like, oh no, they're just going to extend you. Right, they're going to extend you you had to extend for an extra 5 months and 10 days or something, because you had to get back from deployment with 90 days left on contract. So they're like, do all your taps and stuff first if you're getting out. If not, then, whatever. And I was a career Marine. I'd been in for, 7 years at this point, 7.5 years at this point. So, I go this last deployment. It's, the second time I, got requested by the Army. This time they gave me twice as many Marines. Instead it was just me and another Marine. They gave me 3 more Marines to take with me. So there's 5 of us this time. When we, same exact mission, same exact thing, get attached to the engineers out of Baghdad, and and I'm attached to different units, or attached to a FOB, or attached to a mission, or whatever it is, and that deployment, I never really took it for granted, that I get a dog all the time. I've got something to take care of, and, these people, they've got kids that are born back home, especially being attached to the Army. They're over there for 12 months, 18 months at a time, or sometimes longer, and they're missing entire, birthdays and holidays and all that. And as a dog handler, you kind of take, that companionship of having your battle buddy with you all the time is for granted. And that last deployment with the Army, they had Kenny had his dog had won Soldier of the Month for the Army, and he's actually in the Army Times. Cool. He's on the cover, and it is MWD Hans or SSD Hans. He's since passed, but he. One of the missions we were on, I had like 2 finds, and Matt had like 7 or 8 or something like that. He found at the time, it was the largest find by MWD in Iraq, and he found like 450 pounds of HME, and it was in a rice factory. Wow. Pile of rice, but in the middle of that was 5 or 6 duffel bags full of HME, like hardened chocolate chip and nitrate, ammonium nitrate, HME. And so when he won that, it kind of blew up the Marines with the Army and what we were doing in Baghdad. And so we had the Marine Corps birthday come up in November, and we were the oldest and youngest Marine, because we're the only Marines on the entire base. So they have a Marine Corps ball for us, right? And we get to cut the cake. And of course, he's never done a Marine Corps ball. He's a boot corporal, and he'd been deployed. He'd only been in the Marine Corps like 3 years, and we'd been deployed the whole time.
Right.
So he hadn't even been to a Marine Corps ball, nevertheless being the youngest Marine, so I had to like tell him, hey, you actually eat the cake. I didn't get a fork. No, you eat it with your hand. You're not supposed to get it. You don't give it a fork. But that turned, and prior to that, we were getting requests, hey, can, especially with EOD, because we talk with all the units, especially the ones we work with, hey, can you bring the dogs by? So, I saw the first effects of what we now call emotional affect, that bonding, that what a dog gives you just because they're dogs. We love that serotonin, that dopamine, that release we get, that feel-good feeling just from the companionship, whether it's a hug, a kiss from a family member, petting a dog, So that was my first introduction to, and I had taken it for granted up until that point. And so, we started getting requests. We started making ourselves available more, especially in 2008. I felt it was my easiest deployment because there was not a lot to do. There was missions. You had to like go hunt down missions. You had 20 dog handlers trying to fight over 5 missions in an entire month. There's not enough to do. And being a sergeant, and being, oh, you've done it. Let me go. I was like, okay. So I,
leader.
Yeah, my last, that was the one I sent Kenny on, to almost get killed. Sent out a couple of guys to get Purple Hearts and combat action ribbons, but it really came down to, I've done it. I've got 2 kids at home. I can let you guys do your thing.
Yep.
So. I got to see, that camaraderie. Those guys coming off mission. We'd go down there and hit them up in the chews and be like, "Hey, man, you guys, how's it going? I know you just got out of the shower. I just brought the dog to check in on to see how you're doing. Let you play, play with the dog or whatever." So, we tried to utilize our dogs for that as much as we could. I know other guys were too. When a unit lost a handler, lost a dog, it's crushing. We had to deal with several of those. Corporal Lee, Corporal Weems, Sergeant Cann. There were more since then. Those are the 3 that I served with that all died. Those are the first. One was Army soldier, and the other 2 were Marines. But those are the 3 that I served with and worked with that just didn't make it back.
Right. Right.
All of them died during in missions. So it wasn't like they
training.
I feel bad for certain guys. The first casualty I ever saw was my second day in Iraq, and he electrocuted himself, messing around with a generator, AC like an idiot. Yep. Say it lightly. No disrespect to him, but he just got there too. He didn't even get a chance to serve his country. To his full extent. So, it's going from that and knowing that unit had to deal with all that. This PFC that going through boot camp and gone through ITB with these Marines. Just training accident, not even a training accident, just accident, just shit happens. So being able to give back, that led to, my understanding of it, but, I still didn't really think it's not an industry, it's not a career, there's nothing you can make out of it. So, I chased, got out of the Marine Corps in January 2009, and, I got hired on for a couple of contracts, did a couple of government contracts and some overseas stuff. Went to Afghanistan for a year, as a dog handler, and it's it was always dogs. Kenny reached out to me, a couple of years, later, probably 2008, or excuse me, 11, 12, 10, 11, 12. I was like, hey, I just finished my master's, my MBA. Anybody looking for a Purple Heart, recipient, veterans advocate, maybe, what can I put it to? I haven't done any dog stuff since I got out of the Marine Corps. What's up? You still doing dogs? It was like a joke, like, dude, I'll always be K-9.
Yeah.
Like, I've tried it. I went after it. I've tried to chase other jobs. I always I try interviewing for a job and get recruited by the company, parent or sister company, to go do dog stuff for them, or I'm an electrician's apprentice, and you're hating it, and then like just a job drops in my lap, like, hey, go to Afghanistan for a year, things like that were, just I think I was skilled enough and good enough and willing to do just about anything. That Marine mentality, adapt and overcome. That I'm just always K-9. So my wife who works for a couple of different magazines, was interviewing Karen Gunther with the Semper Fi Fund for an article on the Semper Fi Fund. And about their being in Prince William County and their involvement with the veterans, involved with the community and Marine Corps Marathon and all that. And during the course of the interview, Karen and my wife started discussing, my background and me being a dog handler. And she, I guess the light bulb went off. She goes, "Is he looking for a job? Because we have this position that we're piloting. I can't find anybody that wants it or that's willing to do it that even fits the criteria for it. We've got the funding to create this internship to train it for a dog handler, especially a veteran." Marine even better,
right?
To train service dogs, and can you use rescue dogs doing it? And I'm like, well, I don't see why not. I just spent a year and a half training rescue dogs to find bed bugs in D.C. and Richmond and everywhere, so can't be that much different, right? With my background, this time I had 10 or 11 years experience. I love school. I love learning. I mean, I've done everything else I can really do at this point. Let's try the therapeutic side of it.
Great.
So I got to do a paid internship with the Semper Fi Fund, working with a service dog organization, and essentially creating this pilot program based off, hey, can you take rescue dogs or take free dogs, either donated or rescue dogs, and train them for veterans with holistic disabilities. And after the internship ended, the Semper Fi Fund, Karen and their board, said, that's your program. You're welcome to do whatever you want with it. So I was like, let's patent it.
How great is
and
that?
Everything. So
Good for you.
So I got essentially, created a pilot program, and it really came into just a starter program for an organization. So my wife, and Karen and my wife both urged me and said, you've always looked for, something that you could do outside of a contract that's not contract based. That you always say that, hey, when people ask you, do you miss the Marine Corps? And you're like, I don't miss the Marine Corps. I miss Marines. I miss the Marine shit. Everybody wants to be a Marine, so you get to do Marine shit. And I'm like, well, that's what I miss about the Marine Corps. So I got an opportunity, to do that again, and said, I make my own schedule. I don't mesh well, in most industries. I don't really have the knack for anything outside of dog stuff. I don't have the patience for hard, blue collar stuff. And I can't put me in a computer for a couple of years. I'm gonna be in a wheelchair in a year. I can't sit down for that long. And so November 2014 we got incorporated. Got our first dog in January 2014.
Find out more about Chris and his organization at semperk9.org. I hope you enjoyed this combat story. If you want to tell your own story, go to combatstory.com. If you know someone we should interview, send me their info at ryan@combatstory.com. Hearing these stories can be tough or bring back your own memories. If you're battling PTSD, please call the Veteran Crisis Line at 1-800-273-8255. 273-8255. Stay safe.